for joining us today. You are in the right place. You are here if you care about policy, making things better in your life. If you want to make things better at work or in your community, this is the place to be. And I want to say, first off, thank you to Holly and Nancy for always catching these replays, even if they can't make it live each week. And I know we're not live this week, and I'm really sorry about that, but I'm on travel once again. And so we're bringing this to you as a recording. But you need to know that the rest of this month, we're going to dive into your questions about this topic, and I cannot wait to dig in. But before we get started, the greatest thank you can do for anything for me is to invite people into the group. And I want to say thank you to Lisa, who keeps inviting people to join us. If you know other people that care about advocacy and care about things that are making things better, please send them our way. This month, we're going to be talking about time management as it relates to my favorite tool, the Full Focus Planner. And if you've been around a while, you have known I've mentioned the Full Focus Planner, and I've had some requests in this group to talk about the planner itself, talk about how I manage time, and then talk about some other things that go with it. So we're going to talk about, for the rest of this month, we're going to be talking about the planner, how things work in the planner, and you can do the system whether you have a planner or not. So don't worry about that. Also, I should tell you, I don't make $1 selling this planner. This planner has changed my life. So I'm telling you about it because it makes a difference, not because I get paid. I don't make anything. In fact, I pay them for my planner. How crazy is that? But I've used it now for years, and we're going to talk about that today. So say planner in the chat if you're here. Tell us you're here. If you're watching live or on replay, let us know you're here. Put planner in the chat. And if you have additional questions as I talk today, please put those in the chat as well, because I'm going to take your questions and turn that into the rest of the month. So we're going to talk about today some basics, my favorite parts about this Full Focus Planner system. I'm going to give you some resources that you can look into further to find out more information to see if it's right for you. And then I'm going to give you some things that we're going to do next. And we're going to work on setting goals for 2023 using the system. I'm Renee Schulte. I am a therapist by trade. I am a recovering politician. I've been out about a decade now, and I'm a reformed workaholic. I focus on work-life balance. And if you're in my circle and in my life, I work on policy to make life better. So it's not all about work. And I'm telling you, the reason that I care so much about that is I have lived the crash and burn. But this tool, the Full Focus Planner, is what got me out of the mess. So today we're going to talk about the planner. I'm going to talk about 3 big pieces of it so that you kind of get an understanding of what we're talking about and kind of why I went this direction. And then next week, we're going to dive into your questions. We're going to talk about some really specific parts of the planner and the planning system and how they work to help you move forward in your goals. Then we're going to go from there and talk more about how do we do that if we want to set goals for the new year. How many people here set those New Year's resolutions that are done by February 2nd? There's lots of people. You know how I know? Because this time of the year, the gym gets crazy. The gym people come out of the woodwork and start signing up at Thanksgiving and Christmas because they have this New Year's resolution that they're all going to be at the gym. And you know what? Long about February the 2nd, I'll be back to my regularly scheduled locker, my regularly scheduled shower, and everything will be back to the same because by February, nobody's there anymore. Let's not make that you. If you have a goal to get better health this year, hey, we can talk about that. And the Full Focus Planner can help you get there. And that's what we're talking about today. So for those that don't know me, let me give you a little history about how I became such a planning person. 2013, I was hospitalized for 2 weeks. I had a severe lung infection. And I'll never forget about day 8, day 9, it all sort of blurs together. But the doctor, they told me at some point I needed to get my gallbladder out. And I was like, okay. But the doctor came into the hospital room and said, hey, we're grateful we took it out, but that's not why you're sick. You see, my gallbladder was full of gangrene, which means it was dying. And so that's a big problem. But that wasn't the reason I was sick. 8 to 9 days in, they still didn't know. We figured it out. It was a fungus. And it took over a year on medication to remove that from my system. It took longer than that to actually recover, to get my strength back, to be able to rebuild a life. You see, right before I got sick, I was going to run for Congress. I got out of the state house in 2012, was the end of my last year. And I was going to run for Congress. I was done January in 2013. And that year, that summer, we were going to launch a bid for Congress. It changed my entire life. I'm completely out of politics now. I work in policy, but I don't do politics. Very, very different. And I've had to recreate my whole life because I lived out of balance. Work was everything. Work was fun. I loved work. And the more I worked, the more I loved it. But my body decided to give up doing that. That's when I found the Full Focus Planner. The Full Focus Planner is my favorite tool. And let me give you some reasons why. So first of all, people might say, why in the world did you go paper versus digital, right? Because that's a big thing now. Everything can be digital. But let me tell you why, and this is the number one thing for today, paper versus digital, why I went paper. Life moves too fast digitally. We are on camera, we're online, we are on our phones 24/7. Paper helps me get stuff out of my head. If I'm just doing that in digital land, it's not the same. For me, I need to actually write things down. It works alongside my digital calendar. I have a digital calendar. I use Google. I use a calendar. I'm not crazy. And in my digital calendar will tell me the phone number of who I'm trying to call. It'll give me the background information on the person, right? It'll give me the address to go to so I can click it and it'll go to my GPS. All of that stays digital. So I'm not saying give up all of that to go paper. That's not what I'm saying, but they blend really well together because what goes in the planner are the big rocks. And when we talk about a rock is something that's really important to you, that's moving you toward your goal of whatever that is. And we'll talk more about that the rest of this month. We're going to dive deep into goals and goal setting because we're heading into 2023 and you may need to set some new goals. So how in the world do you do that and get past February actually being successful? We're going to talk about that. It keeps all my notes in one place. Each day of a planner has, let me see if I can find a day. Each day, you probably can't see this very well, but it just has the regular calendar on this side and then like places to list. And it talks about big three, which we're going to talk about. But it also has another day over here for notes. And what I love about it is I can put in my big events like a meeting and put all my notes next to it. And it will keep it all together. I'm a big notebook person. I've always written stuff on paper, but after a while, those notebooks get lost and then they don't connect back to anything else. And for me, that just doesn't work. So this way I can put those most important things in the paper on the notes, put the notes next to it so that I can go back and look, who was I talking to when I said blank and who told me that, or where did I find that information or whatever else it is. The other thing, it's 1 quarter at a time. And so 90 days. And it keeps it all together. My whole life is in this book. For 90 days, I carry one. At the end of the 90 days, I get a different one. And there's all different colors. There's all different styles. And you can look those up. But there's coil styles if you want a coil. There's leather bound. There's linen. There's now even loose leaf that you can put into a binder version if you want to move the pages around. Super cool. And so you can make it work for you. And then at the end of the book, there's an index. So I can write down the most important things in this book that'll transfer into the future. And you can see I use myself a little sticky note situation. I love my Post-its, and I'll put them in here. And sometimes that's stuff that I need to rewrite into the next book. And I'll take stuff from book to book and rewrite it. And that may seem like a lot of work to some people, but for me, it helps me get it into my head. So if there's something really important I'm trying to remember, I'll rewrite it book after book. And then after a while, it doesn't matter anymore. And then I don't have to keep it and I don't have to rewrite that page. Or if it's super important, this just gives me a note to make sure I upload it into my other things, my notes or whatever else I need into my Google Drive or whatever other system you might be using. So for this reason, I'm all about paper, and it actually gets me away from my phone, which for me is a big deal. I waste too much time there. Number 2, planning has now all the domains of my life. Prior to a Full Focus system, I was a workaholic. And I can say that now looking back, I didn't think so. I really loved work. And for me, work was fun, like I said before. And the more I worked, the more fun I had. So I never thought about it, but I wasn't in balance. And my body told me so, right? My body gave out. My body told on me, not in balance. So the cool part about the Full Focus system, and some of the resources will be attached today if you want to look into it, it talks about all domains in your life. In all the domains in your life, you work together for all of those domains and you make goals out of all of them. So at a calendar year, it's not all about work. The big goals have to have other things. So the domains are kind of in three different groupings. There's about your individual self. So that's your spiritual, your intellectual, your emotional, your physical. So about your own body. The next group is about your inner relationships. So it's your marital, your parental, if you have kids, your social life, about connections with others. And then the last part is about how you focus outward in the community and how you make a difference in the world. And that's your work. And that's your avocational, or what we call avocational, or hobbies, or your financial. Like, how are you working and doing things that actually give back to the world, right? So you think about it as different groupings. You have the ones that are individual to you. The next realm is that relationship with you. And then the next realm is like, how do people see you in the world, your work, your hobbies, your finances? And because of that, and you think about goal setting across those domains, they have tools where you can actually do some quizzes and see which ones are short. And they put it in this pie chart, right? So if you're doing really well all the way around, your wheel's going to be pretty even. But if all of a sudden your finances are terrible, you're going to have this wheel and all of a sudden there's a chunk taken out of it. And so when your life is going forward, if finances are out of whack, you're going to go ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk every time you hit finances. Or if you have relationship problems, right, are really bad, your marriage is not good, your finances are not good, it's going to go ka-thunk, 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 and you're barely even going to move. Or you just have a flat tire, or part of it's good and the other side is just flat. Well, you can see that and start making goals to make things better. And that right there shifted my life. All of a sudden, it wasn't all about work. It became about my physical health again, because it had to. It became about my relationships that I didn't pay much attention to when I was working so much. And it became about, what am I going to do outside of work? Like hobbies, fun, not just messing around, working. Now, the third thing I really like about this is it's quarterly. You can look at this in a quarterly fashion. And so you're looking at quarters and you're setting kind of a 90-day sprint. There's lots of research out there about looking at things in a sprint mode. You may have a goal for a whole year, but you want to chunk it down into 4 chunks so that you can go at it quickly for those 90 days. Maybe you want to set a habit. Maybe you want to make an achievement. And the way this system works, you only get 2 or 3 big goals at a time. Now, you may be thinking, what in the world is a goal versus a project? They're very different. A project is something you've done before. A project is something that you may be redoing. So you're launching a course, but you've launched it before, so it's a relaunch. It might be something that you have experience in, that you've done a few times, and it's not super exciting. It's something that has to get done. That's a project. When you get into goals, and we're going to teach more about this, about goals, they need to have some other qualities. They need to be exciting, for example. They need to have some risk. They need to be outside your comfort zone, something you haven't done before, something you're trying that's new and exciting. So goals are different. So when you start looking at how many of those do you need in a year, it's anywhere from 8 to 10, maybe. You might make 12, but not more than that for the whole year. And you're looking at your whole life. Very different. And so then I might have 1 or 2 big goals in work. Not everything's about work. And then you can have different goals. And I love that. And those goals could be habits, where you're looking at how do you make that daily thing so that you can do something every day, or achievement, where at the end of the time, all you're doing is trying to hit the goal at the end of the 90 days. And you can decide how many of those you want of each. And then you build upon them quarter after quarter after quarter, and you start seeing some real progress. And lastly, the other big thing I love, and we're going to talk more about this moving forward too, they do what's called a weekly big 3. So every week I get to look at my planner, see what my goals are, instead of what can I do this week to move me toward that goal, right? Only a couple of things. So you're not doing everything. I still have to-do lists that are all that boring stuff that I don't love. Those are still in there. I still have to do them, but it's not that. You're looking at what actually makes your heart sing. What are you excited about? What gets you up in the morning? What can you do in that space? And there's only a couple of those a week that you're going to be able to do. But as you do those little bit, week after week after week, you start looking backwards and you've made real progress. So next week, if you have questions about this, if you want to know more, and you probably do by now, you want to give me questions in the chat. Give me questions in the chat, and I will make sure to answer them and incorporate those into next week. Also, I want to show you a couple of different things I'm going to show you as tools. If you liked the idea of looking at your whole life, the whole domain, there's a book, Michael Hyatt, Your Best Year Ever. He is the maker and creator of the Full Focus Planner and the systems. But Your Best Year Ever. Your Best Year Ever is a book. It's also a live course you can take typically this time of year. I haven't seen the new date, so I'm not sure if it's up this year. And it's on where you can take it at any time. So you can take the class, you can take the book, but this is what talks about all those life domains. And we're going to make sure you get this in the comments, and so that you can find it yourself if you want it. We're also going to give you a link toward the Full Focus Planner, so you can look at that. And if you are interested in knowing anything more about that, again, I don't make one dime on this. I just love it. So if it's something you care about, you can find that. And then we're going to give you a link for the Full Focus system. So again, you can see what I'm talking about and how it all ties together. So if you're watching again this week, please put planner in the chat. Let us know you were here. If you were watching it the first time through, or you're watching it on replay later, doesn't matter. If you have questions, put those in the chat. And next week, we're going to dive into more specifics about how those goals connect together. And we're going to talk about how does the quarter tie to the week, tie to your day, and how does that all work? And then as we go through the month, we're going to be setting our new goals for 2023. I hope to see you back then. Have a great day, everybody.